So welcome to the County Commissioner District 2 Candidate Forum sponsored by Longmont Public Media and the League of Women Voters of Boulder County. My name is Faith Halverson Ramos, and I am pleased to serve as moderator for today's forum. The Board of County Commissioners consists of 3 individuals elected to serve 4-year terms as leaders of the Boulder County government. All 3 commissioners are elected at large by the voters of Boulder County and represent the county as a whole. The format for today's forum will be as follows. Each candidate will have 1 minute for an opening statement. We will then begin with questions that have been both submitted electronically online to the League and submitted by the audience. Audience members may submit questions by writing them on index cards available from our volunteers. Questions will be reviewed by our volunteer screeners for clarity, and we may combine several similar questions into one question on that topic. We will try to ask the candidates as many questions as time permits, and I urge you to submit questions early in the forum. For most questions, each candidate will have up to 1 minute to answer. However, I may expand the time to answer depending on the question. Longmont Public Media is broadcasting the forum live on cable system channels 8 and 16 and on Facebook, YouTube, Longmont Public Media's website, and Longmont Public Media's Roku TV app for smart TVs. The forums will also be made available for later viewing at the League of Women Voters of Boulder County website and at the League of Women Voters of Boulder County YouTube channel. Please refrain from clapping, booing, or otherwise showing your approval or disapproval of any response. Please respect the candidates and honor the dignity of democracy. Disruptions will only delay the forum. And we'll be getting ready for our opening statements and questions. So for the opening statements, we'll begin with candidate Lochamin.
Great, thank you. Buenas tardes a todos. Gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Gracias a todos los que están patrocinando el evento y a League of Women Voters. Mi nombre es Martita Lochamin. Soy una comisionada aquí del condado de Boulder. Vivo aquí en Longmont y es un honor realmente para poder ayudar a toda la comunidad en este puesto. My name is Martha Lochamin. I am a Longmont resident. I'm a current Boulder County Commissioner running for re-election. Just want to say thanks to the League of Women Voters and all of the sponsors who brought us here today to talk about all of the important election roles, candidates, ballot measures, et cetera, as we get close to 4 weeks away from an election. I have been the current county commissioner for what is now my 4th year, and I'm very proud and very honored to have this role to support community members and to advise on the roles of work to include more folks to the resources, opportunities, and programs that are offered by Boulder County.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis, your opening statement, please.
My name is Don Lewis. I come from a long Colorado family. My parents and great-parents, grandparents, great-grandparents homesteaded in Bent County. So we've been in Colorado for a long time. I spent a bunch of time in the Navy and retired in the Navy Reserves. So we've lived in Colorado, in Boulder County for a little over 30 years, and we enjoy it. It's been a good time of living here.
Thank you. So for our first question, we'll begin with you, Candidate Lewis. And the question is, what challenges in Boulder County do you feel are priority for the county government to address? And how would you work to understand the challenges facing community members elsewhere in the county?
Well, of course, one of our most difficult challenges is traffic. We have lots of people going here and there, and the roads generally are okay, although there are some areas, especially in the mountain and other areas, not quite close to the center of the county that do need more work. So I think that's probably one of the challenge things that the county has that's going to be working on, and they are working on that.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you, and I want to say thank you for the opportunity to meet Don Lewis as well. This is the first time we're meeting today, and before you started, we got a chance to say hello. So I appreciate just being here together on the stage. The question is around challenges and what work we would do to understand community needs. At the county, the most pressing need we hear through surveying, we hear through public comment. We added in 2021 an additional evening public comment, so folks would have a morning opportunity, an evening opportunity, and we have been out as the Board of County Commissioners in every town and city along our region and continue to do that. What we hear is about the housing crisis. What we hear is about housing inventory. We hear about restrictions that don't allow folks to live and work and thrive in Boulder County. And we'll continue to reach out to have conversations, to open opportunities for folks to come in and give ideas and suggestions and solutions to this crisis. We now have a legislative session that just recently ended that is opening up some additional doors on housing.
Thank you. We received a question from the audience, and that question is, what is your plan to represent constituents who do not vote for you in the coming election? And we'll begin with you, Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. That's a great question. And what I'll say is, I think I have a really already tested scenario similar to that question. And I share that because in 2020, I also had a contested primary, and I also had a Republican challenger, and didn't have a support a lot of elected officials and a lot of folks who were part of the governmental process at that time. And what I chose to do was, once I was elected in November 2020, and remember we were in a global pandemic, was to reach out to all those folks and find out, what do I need to do? What do I need to learn? How can I help you? For me, it is not a question of if you support me now or supported me or vote for me. My job, my role, my commitment, my responsibility is to every one of the 330,000 residents that calls Boulder County their home, and the workers that come into our county who also need services and supports, and I'll continue to do the diligent work to keep that commitment.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis.
Well, I think that question is asked to every politician, and we support all of the people. Well, of course, we all come with our things that we prefer to work on first.
Thank you. Our next question is related to disaster response. Wildfires are posing a threat to Boulder County communities. How would you help to foster better wildfire preparation and emergency response? And we'll begin with you, Candidate Lewis.
So yeah, it's one of the things that I noted that I need to think about, that the fact that the Marshall fire took so many houses. So there's a couple areas that need to be worked on, making sure that our houses are not too close together. And the other thing is, because we live in an area with so many trees, especially evergreen trees that support a great deal of combustion. This is an area that we need to work on more, especially in the mountain areas, which is one of the areas of Area 2. It's a struggle to, especially for people who enjoy trees and things close to them.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Appreciate this question. Anybody in the western region of the United States is asking the same and similar questions for a lot of different reasons. We have a lot of continuous work to do, but I am very proud of my work in 2022, stemming from previous work in 2013 on flood recovery, but connected to this, the incident that was just referred to of Marshall Fire and my ability to transfer skills into something unexpected. I have also in 22 then worked on the wildfire tax. The Boulder County voters were very generous in looking at how can we come up with solutions. I'm working on and continue to look at technological fixes. We've added cameras and are doing research in the area about how to identify wildfires ahead of time. I've done some work with our Emergency Operations Center. I have regionally with other elected officials this month. September was National Preparedness Month, and got all of our electeds together in some of that work and presentations around the county. We are continue to do the work and have a $500 rebate right now from that tax for homeowners interested in home hardening.
Thank you. Following up on that, there's long been a focus on mitigating fire dangers for those living in the foothills of Boulder County, but anxiety about brush fires on the plains is somewhat new post the Marshall Fire. And so what would you do to make eastern Boulder County more fire resilient? And we'll begin with you, candidate Lochamin.
Great, thank you. That question to me is super connected to the previous one, and I say that because that was one of the questions in regards to the areas of both 1 and 2, which just means what's in the mountains and what's used to be considered not fire danger, and we saw that in Marshall Fire, that all of our areas. In Longmont, what we need to realize, and if you haven't seen the mapping, I would really encourage you to look at the bouldercounty.gov website. I would encourage you to look at our Office of Disaster Management. The mapping of what actually could have happened here in Longmont is very clear. And so the home hardening activities, defensible space are all pieces that even here in cities and towns we can do. They're very tangible items I've met with. I was just up at Sugarloaf a couple days ago meeting with the rural fire teams who are doing significant work, and that tax funding is also helping them to be able to respond. We all need to be prepared. We need to do our own work. We need to know our communities, which looks like community mapping, so that we know when there is a disaster, and there will be another disaster, who our neighbors are so that we can support them.
Thank you. And candidate Lewis, your answer.
Yeah, of course, Longmont is up against the county border. We do have a rural fire department that's watching for things all the time. But the fact that Longmont is on the border, we need to make sure that Longmont is very concerned with things that might start grass fires, making sure that farmers who are part of the area near the border is very careful to, especially when they do burn ditches and things, make sure we don't have a problem.
Thank you. Our next question is, with an expanding Latino population in Boulder County, what would you do to increase language access for Spanish-speaking people and for people whose primary language is not English or Spanish? Candidate Lewis, we'll start with you.
Well, being a non-Spanish speaker, I'm sure Marta has a better idea about that than I do, but one of the things that we have at our church, I'm in a English-speaking church, but we also support a Spanish church at our church and encourage them to invite other people into our church during their Spanish speaking. So our church is trying to encourage the Spanish peoples to enjoy Boulder County also.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. I appreciate this question, and I'll share for folks who might just be looking for some more information about me as a candidate. One of the programs that I did prior to my current role as your District 2 County Commissioner was a program for the state of Colorado, again, after the flood of 2013, entitled Resiliencia para Todos, which is resiliency for all. It's still on the City of Longmont website because I was working for them when I was doing that DOLA project. In that, we identified by talking with community members, students, LGBTQ communities, our aging adults, and family translators about the needs to address language access. And so in January 12th, 2021, that was one of my first statements of next we will work on language access. I'm very proud to now have a department who is doing that work at the county to look at plain language access, and I appreciate League of Women Voters addressing el hecho de que nosotros podemos conversar en el idioma de nuestro corazón. That, as well as the bilingual pay, which was also a recommendation from that report, and we are doing that now at the county as well.
Thank you. We received a question from the audience regarding housing, and this question is, many insurance companies are refusing or restricting homeowners' coverage. What will you do to help people get affordable home insurance? And we'll begin with candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. That question is tied up for me in a couple of the previous ones, and we need to be very aware. And I say that because the acts of climate action, the significant issues around the country, and if we think about the Carolinas right now, folks are without water and the infrastructure that is also affected. So fires, home damage, but also the utilities, the water infrastructure, all of those different pieces are connected to the issues of home ownership and insurance. The fact that it is harder now in the US to get insurance in certain areas is also affecting us. I heard a couple of those questions in regards to the Stone Gulch fire when I was up there touring the burn site when it was still burning, and also out in Larimer County when that fire was still going. We have a significant requirement to advocate for our neighbors. The cost of living in Colorado continues to rise. It's not just property taxes, it's also insurance and the inability, what I think will end up looking like current mortgage companies that offer insurance that's very expensive is where we're headed if we don't do advocacy now.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis.
People who live in the mountains have to realize that either they get insurance or they're self-insuring. And it may be a problem for them. If it's a problem, they need to figure out how to sell their property and get somebody else to take it over.
Thank you. Our next question is, please share a time you changed your mind about a social or policy issue. How has that experience impacted how you think about community engagement and policy decisions? And we'll begin with you, Candidate Lewis.
Yeah, part of the problem is that I don't understand those issues. You know, trying to figure out those issues like that. I guess I don't have a good answer for that.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. There was a couple pieces intertwined in that question. And I'm trying to think of a time that I might have changed my mind on a social policy. I feel really confident about what I said I would do when I ran for this office, starting in 2018 and beginning in January 2021 around the need for housing, the need for addressing climate action, environmental justice. I'm now leading our Justice 40 work for the county with a significant opportunity in the current administration's funding of the Inflation Reduction Act and the millions of dollars that will come into Boulder County. And how do we do that in a way that's also going to include just transition, which I'm able to work on with my appointment from Governor Polis on the Workforce Development Council. I have led in community engagement work, built on a project I did for Community Foundation Boulder County several years before I started this role, in looking at how our Latino population as cultural brokers could influence the decision makers and decision making here in Boulder County. And so I feel like I've just expanded the way that I move my beliefs on social policy.
Thank you. Another question about housing and affordable housing specifically. Fewer people living in Boulder County are able to find affordable housing in the county and are moving out to the geographic margins or even to other surrounding counties. What more or what differently do you think the commissioners should do to help curb the skyrocketing cost of living here? And we'll begin with candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. I will There's a couple different pieces, and this is a big question, and I say that because when we talk about affordable housing, I bet if we had 10 minutes just to ask the audience that question, and even us as candidates, affordable housing versus housing affordability versus different costs and what the rise is and what the reasons are, we'd have a really very interesting and healthy conversation. The reality for unincorporated Boulder County is that we will continue to support growth boundaries, we'll continue to support the amazing open space and green space and county borders. You can drive anywhere around our region and not everybody believes the same and has not done the same. I am the lead on housing now at Boulder County for the Commissioner's Office, and I'm also the lead on the work for folks experiencing homelessness. And that is a regional convening that began earlier this year in a convening and a housing summit, and now a group of elected officials. Susie Faring is the City of Longmont's representative, if you want to keep more entwined in what's happening in that realm around the cost of housing in Boulder County.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis.
Part of the problem that we have with Boulder is that we're in a college town. And the professors and the people who associate with the college tend to live in the same area. And they're fairly well paid, which means that they like big homes and accommodate and things. So that drives up the cost of everything. The fact that we are in a college town, and so it's a struggle because the college drives things up in price. The fact that we have a little bit of I say a little bit some of a lower income type housing helps, but it's going to be a struggle no matter what we do.
Thank you. Our next question is regarding air quality. Air quality in Boulder County is often ranked as unhealthy. What would you do to help prevent pollution and worsening air quality? And Candidate Lewis, will begin with you.
Repeat the question, please.
Yeah. What would you do to help prevent pollution and worsening air quality in Boulder County?
Pollution and air quality. People are thinking that driving electric cars would help, but that's a very limited solution. Gas cars do pollute a little bit, but for transportations, they're actually better than electric. It's generally a problem of some amount of pollution. The fact that the county got rid of the generation station probably did help a little bit. So there's things, little bit by little, we've increased it some. Beyond that, I'm not sure what we can do. Traffic, decreasing traffic is probably helpful. Maybe bicycles, but that's a very limited solution too.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. I'm really proud to be in an organization that it was really the impetus for an organization called County Commissioners for Climate Action, CC4CA. And we still support that group and have a policy team in our office that does a lot of work supporting commissioners and legislators on bills, et cetera, in regards to our advocacy and the tangible work that we can be doing in regards to air quality, issues around climate action. We can do at a local level a reduction on carbon emissions. We can look at corporations, we can look at businesses, and we can look at residences. And in regards to the way that our just transition, meaning the folks who are going to not only have the opportunity of work for small business owners who will be able to install gas pumps and other lower carbon emissions infrastructure in properties and businesses, but we can also look at the way that we support our contractors so that they offer the green solutions and help folks who are in other jobs move into those lines of work in a successful way.
Thank you. Many candidates talk most about their areas of expertise. What parts of county government processes or what issues are a larger learning curve for you? And we'll begin with candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. That's a great question, and I appreciate that. There's 3 county commissioners on our board here in Boulder County, and some of you know that that's different depending on which of the 64 counties you live on here in Colorado. The issues, uniquely for me, I had a lot of different expertises. My background is in education, my background is in finance and banking and real estate, and as a consultant doing state work in 2 different areas, from civil rights to the housing, and also being able to do some other community engagement specific. I was doing, quote, DEI work before DEI was known and before George Floyd was murdered, and a lot of companies responded. What I didn't have background in was in the realm of transportation. That was not an area that I knew. The county commissioner who has that lead on that work is a different county commissioner, so I haven't gotten an opportunity to get really in the weeds with our Denver Regional Council of Governments, which is Dr. Cog, and instead I've taken the opportunity to lead the metro area county commissioners and lead our region there in the work on homelessness and the all-in federal plan.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis.
All right, repeat the question for me.
Yes. What parts of county government processes or what issues are a larger learning curve for you?
Sorry, I still didn't understand the question.
Yeah, that's what parts of county government processes are a learning curve for you?
Are useful for me?
What parts of county government processes might you not be as familiar with?
Oh, not familiar with. Well, actually, quite a few of them. I mean, I understand a little bit about construction, science, but there's other. One of the things I think of is some of our law enforcement as it interacts with the cities, how that is accomplished. So that's one of the few areas that I'm not quite sure of.
Thank you. Our next question is, communication and collaboration with other county and city level elected officials seems important to the commissioner's success. If elected, what might you do to maintain or strengthen engagement with other elected officials in the county and our region? And candidate Lewis, you can respond first, please.
Okay, so, and I understand that the governor helps with that. I know that Marta is tasked with, by the governor with working with other counties, and it certainly makes sense that Boulder County has to work with Weld County and the other counties, Jefferson County and so on, to make sure that we're not doing things that are destructive of those counties and need to be cooperating with them. Although I kind of wonder why Boulder County would take and make open spaces in other counties.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. I agree. Communication and collaboration is really important, and I continue to invite all of our partners. We work with over 330 community organizations in regards to all the different human services, grants, programmings, voter-approved tax recipients or funding that then end up with grantee recipients, and ask for folks to continue to keep coming back and asking how else can we be helpful. I particularly lead a group called Consortium of Cities, which is our elected officials here in Boulder County, including the city and county of Broomfield. I mentioned already my work at the Metro Area County Commissioners as chair in 2023, and I continue to be a significant resource in that work and a member. I have been working with the Regional Housing Partnership, which developed a few of our significant plans. Have been working with our councils in 22 on the living minimum wage. We have council meetings with all of our the councils and boards here in our towns, as well as our county commissioners that are border our jurisdiction as well.
Thank you. We received a question from the audience regarding infrastructure. Boulder County lost the lawsuit and is required to pave unincorporated subdivision roads. When is this anticipated to start? And Candidate Lochamin, if you could answer, please.
Thank you. I don't know what lawsuit is being referred to. The question on subdivision paving does come up in different forums. I tend to meet with the chambers just as another way of engaging with community and being a listener and learner about what's happening for folks specifically since COVID. The question of subdivision paving comes up. I would encourage folks, whoever has that question, to look at Burgundy Park. We just received recently a petition and proposal for another public improvement district for a specific something. I can't think of the name of it right now because there's 1,000 things in my mind. But there is a very recent process that's been put in place, and there'll be a ballot measure for that group in regards to subdivision paving.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis, I'm not sure if this is a question that is answerable for you, but maybe a reframing of it could be the relationship between Boulder County and its obligation to unincorporated Boulder County.
Yeah, when the law gets involved, or say a problem with the legal system, we tend to lose in some way or another, and that's unfortunate. It could be that we need to get involved in it earlier than we actually did.
Thank you. Our next question is regarding gun safety and guns in general. What do you want voters to know about your positions on guns and gun safety? And Candidate Lewis, you can answer first.
Gun safety is an important issue. The National Firearm provides training for people who want to know how and better how to use their firearms. We need to make sure that people who want a firearm should be trained so that they keep those firearms safe. We need to make sure that we make sure that people who have some kind of a mental problem don't have access to firearms, and same way in schools, making sure that we're not using safe zones to attract people who have firearms.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
Thank you for the question around gun safety. What I'll share is that in March 2021, after the mass shooting in the city of Boulder, as an elected official, I was asked to respond along with a group of other elected officials from the state. And what I said then, I will continue to stand by, that in the past in my life, as a teacher, as a mother, I did not feel like I had a voice in this conversation. I didn't feel like people were listening, and as an elected official, I have a strong responsibility and will continue to advocate at any opportunity to look at gun safety, to create legislation. I am still a proponent and have been on the record and testified last year in the hopes that legislation would finally get passed in the state of Colorado in regards to banning assault weapons. I'm a supporter of Moms Demand Action. I have testified on it. I was part of the ordinances and creation with Everytown and other partners around this country who believe the same, and I will continue to do that advocacy work on behalf of residents.
Thank you. Our next question is, what is your understanding of the county's racial equity framework, and how would you work to make sure Boulder County is a safe and welcoming space for all people? Candidate Lochamin, you can answer first, please.
Thank you. I'm happy to jump into this. And when we're talking about Boulder County here, I'm interpreting the question as Boulder County as an organization, which is about 2,700 employees versus our entire region. And so what I can share is that I actually got a call from some folks who were Boulder County employees before I even started. And because they knew of the work that I'd been doing around cultural brokers, they knew of the work I'd been doing in this space previously and asked, should we wait for you to get here or would you like us to move forward? And so I started doing a lot of that work and had already ran focus groups with Boulder County employees who had real concerns about the racial inequities and gender pay inequities in the organization. So I was very pleased and I'm still honored to be able to move that work forward. I have done a lot of work internally with our staff since I started. We did start in August 2022. We began our Office of Racial Equity and aligned with Government Alliance and Race and Equity, the GARE format and framework, as well as Courageous Conversations About Race, which is a framework that folks here in the city of Longmont as well use. And as a person of color, I will continue to advocate for racial equity outcomes in all our work.
Thank you. Candidate Lewis.
Well, government's purpose is to protect people's rights. And if it's not doing that, there's a problem and need to solve that problem. Everybody should have the same rights as everybody else. And therefore they should feel safe in our county.
Do you have some ideas on how you as commissioner could help do that?
Well, if we find problems, then you solve those problems.
Thank you. This will be our last question for today's forum. Who has been inspirational to you as you considered running for office? And Candidate Lewis, we'll start with you.
I guess the inspirational for me is Marshall Dawson, who is trying to work for Congress. He's a great guy. I appreciate him. Appreciate his understanding of the problems that we have and what can be done about it. And I hope he wins his seat for Congress.
Thank you. Candidate Lochamin.
I love this question. It's a great place to start, and I want to start because we're not doing closing remarks today, and I want to apologize to the interpreter team for the speed of our 1-minute response time. In 2013, we had a flood here in Boulder County. In 2015, the state looked at which counties had been most impacted, and they called those vulnerable populations, and I started that work to look at what happened specifically to monolingual Spanish speakers in our own community in regards to a flood, and folks had still not been connected to FEMA when I started doing significant research in that role in 2016 and 2017. One of those focus groups, speaking with some amazing young women, moved me into running for office, moved me to use all my expertise in a way that could create change for a wider group of folks. And so my dedication, my commitment, my love for community here in Boulder County is still as strong as it was then. And I'm still inspired to be here to serve all of you in this realm. And I also believe that we can do better together.
Thank you. So on behalf of the League and Longmont Public Media, I would like to thank our candidates not only for their participation in today's forum, but also for their participation in the democratic process. Running for office and serving as an elected official is hard work. I'd also like to thank the Longmont Museum for providing us with this venue, as well as the Community Language Cooperative providing translation services. Thank you to our forum volunteers for their essential help. A huge thank you to our 2024 Platinum Level election sponsors, Premier Members Credit Union and Wana Brands. And finally, thanks to the forum audience, both here or viewing on TV or online. It's up to all of us to make sure we respect and work to protect our democratic processes. We encourage everyone to get out and vote. For more information about the upcoming election and the candidates, please go to the League's voter information site, vote411.org. And remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Thank you for coming. And as we adjourn the candidate forum, please join me in a big round of applause for all our candidates.